Jurassic Park is one of the defining blockbuster franchises of modern film. Steven Spielberg's 1993 movie is a touchstone in not only the lives of many film fans, but also in modern special effects technology. Adapting Michael Crichton's novel about a wildlife park that's been able to clone and recreate dinosaurs, which almost immediately goes wrong, the film was the #1 hit of the year and became a defining movie of the 90s. And like any massive hit, sequels were immediately on the table, with Spielberg pushing Crichton to make a sequel to his novel, which was immediately mostly ignored for The Lost World. And by the time Jurassic Park 3 arrived in 2001, the franchise was starting to lose some steam. Obviously, the series would find a resurgence with Jurassic World in 2015, and, at the time of this video's release, the end doesn't seem anywhere in sight with Jurassic World Rebirth about to hit theaters. But the nearly 15-year gap between the last park and first world wasn't due to lack of trying. There were many different attempts to make another sequel, but the most infamous comes from a script by John Sayles, which centers on militarized human-dinosaur hybrids. It's the type of script that screams, "We're running out of ideas." And while it was never made, it represents a fascinating what-if that would have taken the franchise in a very different direction. And yet, every Jurassic World film has a lot in common with Sayles' script, with Rebirth now bringing in strange mutated dinosaurs that echo what could have been made years ago. So join me on this journey back to a very different Isla Nublar, and the strange tale of the unmade Jurassic Park 4. Even for a franchise that seems to print money with every new entry, getting a sequel made is never an easy process, and the film that would become Jurassic Park 4 went through several iterations and writers in its failed struggle to get made. Shortly after Jurassic Park 3, writer William Monahan, a novelist at the time and best known for later writing The Departed and Kingdom of Heaven, began writing a story that was rumored to have Jeff Goldblum and Richard Attenborough return as Ian Malcolm and John Hammond, with Keira Knightley, right after Pirates of the Caribbean, seemingly wanted as an older Lex Murphy from the original. Directors rumored to shoot the film included Alex Proyas and Breeck Eisner, but the script didn't move forward and nothing was officially announced. And so, John Sayles was hired to write a new draft in 2004. Now, this isn't actually the first unmade movie written by Sayles I've made a video about. Earlier this year, I did a video covering Steven Spielberg's Night Skies, also written by Sayles. So it's clear that even though the film was cancelled and used to make E.T. without Sayles' involvement, the indie writer and director maintained a positive relationship with Spielberg in the time since. It was Spielberg who brought him on board, and it was Spielberg who eventually denied Sayles' script from being made. But we'll get into that later. Skipping a few years ahead to 2007, Sayles would later say about the project, which was then still in limbo, "I've done a couple drafts for something." That's the problem with the IMDb, is that they don't give you all the details. So, like most writers, you do your drafts and then you don't hear until you read in Variety whether it's been made or not, or whether you are one of the writers listed in the credits. They might be continuing trying to make it or not, but it was fun to work on. I've written almost every other animal. I have never written pterodactyls before. The script that resulted is a very strange attempt to move the franchise into a new direction. With 3 films already centered on surviving dinosaurs on an island, it's clear that the Jurassic producers and Universal wanted something different. And the result is a film that starts firmly grounded in the stories that came before, and then heads off in a totally different direction. Okay, enough with the background. Let's get on to the movie. Jurassic Park 4 opens with pure Americana in the heart of the United States, as we join an in-progress Little League game accompanied by all sorts of happy suburban moments. It's a microcosm of familial pressures and young anxieties as kids, coaches, and parents all try to succeed on the baseball field. But you probably already know where this is going, as the game is interrupted by a passing pterodactyl, snatching a fly ball out of the air. It's a moment of that signature Jurassic Park blend of wonder and fear that turns into chaos as an entire flock of pterodactyls swoops in. The result is a weird blend of scary and silly as parents and children run for their lives, with Little Leaguers' baseball skills coming in to save the day. It's an 8-page opening scene that sets the stage for where this Jurassic World is now. cutting to a TV news broadcast with an anchor that informs us of the worldwide scene. Similar incidents have plagued communities in Central America and Mexico in recent months, leading to the formation of a United Nations task force to exterminate the intrusive predators. These and a few other formerly extinct species have migrated to the mainland from Isla Nublar, site of the notorious Jurassic Park disaster. Compies have also left the island by using floating ocean debris to get to the mainland. And it's here on this broadcast where we meet Wilhelm Spieler, a spokesman for the Grendel Corporation, which is a Swiss firm that now owns Isla Nublar. And according to Spieler, Grendel is nearing the end of killing every dinosaur on the island. Alongside the global ban on mining for amber, it seems like the end of the dinos is in sight. The broadcast is also our method of cutting to a beachfront bar where it's watched by Nick Harris, an unemployed soldier of fortune and the man who'll be our main character. Nick quickly encounters Captain Jeb Overton, his former commander who has 2 prosthetic legs and is here to recruit him for a super secret mission for John Hammond, founder of Jurassic Park and a character that was never seen again on film after Lost World. And the years have not been kind to Hammond. Not only is his health failing, but he's in the Guinness Book of World Records as the most sued person in history, and his heirs have been able to declare him incompetent, stripping him of all power. And while Hammond once viewed the dinosaurs with wonder and love, he now despises them, calling them an evil that must be eliminated before it spirals out of control. Hammond's plan to wipe out any remaining dinosaurs wreaking havoc in the world is to create a so-called Judas strain of dinos. Aggressive, attractive, but sterile female creatures that will prevent any further breeding and wipe out the dinos loose around the Earth. But to make them, Hammond needs
bingo, dino DNA
that he no longer possesses. The solution is a major callback. The lost shaving cream aerosol can used by Dennis Nedry in the original Jurassic Park that was lost when Nedry was killed, and getting it back will be Nick's mission. So that kinda makes no sense. Nedry's can was designed to keep the DNA vials cold for 36 hours in the original, and even if you don't separate these films by real time, it would have been at least a decade since the incident. Those vials are cooked, and our premise is already requiring some real suspension of disbelief. In comparison to what comes later, it seems like a small ask. And so, Nick's mission is set. Solid snake his way into Isla Nublar and find the canister under the noses of Grendel International, which is also searching for it. Nick is pretty heavily armed, with the script showing him to have a combat shotgun, silenced pack rifle, and .50 caliber pistol alongside other effects. But he almost immediately finds Nedry's skeleton, still in the JP truck he died in, and after some searching with a metal detector, Nick finds the Barbasol can, the whole reason for this movie, only 21 pages into the script. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. In fact, it's so simple that you can't help but wonder how no one from Grendel ever just stumbled on the whole thing before. But right as he begins to leave, Nick is surrounded by Grendel soldiers, only for the group to be attacked by velociraptors. But not just any old raptor, these are Excavaraptors, mutated, jet black, red-eyed, and able to dig underground to surprise their prey with huge mole-like digging claws. With the soldiers taken out, Nick is chased through the jungle by both Excavaraptors, which are tough enough to get pumped full of bullets and keep going, and Compies, which swarm him until he takes cover in staff barracks. Already, Jurassic Park 4 is way more of an action movie than any of the films that came before. In fact, it kinda reminds me of the Sega Jurassic Park arcade game. You know, the rail shooter one where it's like you're in a Jeep and the dinos have glowing circles on them you gotta shoot. I loved that game as a kid. Anyway, the chase continues as an Excavaraptor and several spitting Climatosauruses, ew, gross, chase Nick into underground utility tunnels as the mercenary races to get on the pontoon plane he's signaled for rescue. The chase sees Nick slowly lose all his equipment save for the Barbasol can with the Digger Raptor in hot pursuit, and eventually paying homage to the opening of Raiders of the Lost Ark, with Nick running toward the pontoon with the dino right behind him. Only this escape attempt is foiled when the plane, taking off without Nick, is chomped apart by a Kronosaurus in the water, which is followed by the pilot also being eaten. However, Nick is saved by a Grendel security helicopter, with the men on board knocking him out, taking the canister, and leaving Isla Nublar far behind. The last time we see it in the film. It's a really exciting 14-page action set piece that rolls along from danger to danger, going from land to tunnels to sea to sky, and it's easily the best thing in the script. Waking up mid-flight, you don't really have to worry about Nick. He just grabs the can, jumps out of a high-speed helicopter into shallow ocean, runs ashore of what's probably Costa Rica, and escapes his captors immediately. Nick is able to hide the canister in a restaurant before he is knocked out and captured again, now waking up in the tower of a medieval castle in the Swiss Alps, complete with yodelers and tourists. Soon, Nick is escorted out of his room and meets Adrian Joyce, an athletic mercenary with a love of sword fighting who previously fought with Nick and is now working for the CEO of Grendel, Baron von Drax. Ooh, he sounds like a Castlevania character. With Grendel wanting both the DNA canister and Nick to work for them, it's here, 43 pages into Jurassic Park 4 script, that we start to grasp the larger story via villain monologue from Joyce and another new character, Sherman Fosdick, a young genetics whiz. Deep within the castle's dungeon is a fully grown and mad ankylosaurus and a massive James Bond villain-like lab in a cavern deep inside a mountain. It's all funded and controlled by Grendel, which is planning on using the Nedry dino DNA to create new dinosaurs as solutions to the ones on the loose like Hammond, but will wait until the United Nations pays them for the service. Outside of the dinosaurs, Grendel is rich from genetically modified insect-resistant grains and other services. And deep inside the lab are many different captured dinosaurs and engineer Maya Lundberg. A Deinonychus named X1 has a regulator box attached to its head that tracks its vitals and can control its hormones and neuropeptides to modify its mood and energy levels in an effort to train it. It's clear that, led by Joyce, Grendel is trying to control every aspect of the dinosaurs to turn them into a weapon. But Maya isn't on his side, slipping Nick a note that says, "Do not give them the embryos." Next, Joyce takes Nick to the company's training facility, hidden within a mountain valley where Deinonychuses, named X2 and X3 are let loose, with not just regulators but genetic modifications turning them into the machines that Grendel wants. A section of DNA from the egg-stealing raptor Ornitholestes to lengthen the forearms and give them more dexterity with the fingers. A section from the domestic dog that seems to foster obedience and receptivity to training. And a small section of human DNA that we hope will increase their problem-solving ability. Okay, so there you go. You got your human-dino hybrids, but they're not nearly anything like what you would have expected given how infamous this script is. The script uses very few descriptions of what these dinos would actually look like, but you can kind of assume that they're just bigger and more dangerous and a little bit more unique looking than anything you'd seen before, and not the human dino hybrids that would have made Michael Crichton cry if he saw them. Meanwhile, Maya begins to use hand signals to control the raptors, with the staff given an armband that releases pheromones the dinos avoid. And not only are the raptors modified to obey, the training mission reveals they're also chameleons, able to change to blend in with any complex pattern, taking out targets and nearly killing the soldiers posing as enemies, revealing that, unsurprisingly because this is Jurassic Park and man's best laid plans always go awry, the hormone controls aren't nearly as effective as Sherman believes, with the dinosaurs eventually brought back under control with a full team restraining them. And so, Nick finally catches on that Grendel wants to use the creatures as weapons, with Joyce declaring their great potential. Shock troops, SWAT team, riot control, search and destroy, the ultimate in special forces. From there, we learn more about the dynamics and rules in play. Joyce wants Nick to lead their dino squad, while Maya has a contentious relationship with the mercenaries they've hired, with her behavior modification approach and gentleness with the creatures clashing with the violent mercenaries, who would rather beat the lessons into the dinosaurs. But the genetic engineering used to create these hybrids makes them sterile, meaning that Grendel needs the DNA canister that Nick hid in order to expand the program. And as we reach the midpoint of the film, Joyce is still trying to get Nick to accept his offer, with the reveal that while the dinosaurs are unable to produce their own insulin as a failsafe by Grendel, at least one soldier has already been eaten by the creatures, who are proving to be more and more uncontrollable. Big risks, big pay, my friend. Dare to be great. Now that we're at the halfway point, I bet you're thinking, where are all the crazy monsters that I've seen before? Well, two things. One, you're a dang-ass freak for wanting that, and two, they were never actually in these scripts. I know, disappointing, right? See, Sayles' script was leaked online in the 2000s, and alongside it were several different pieces of concept art showing bipedal triceratops, spiky T-Rexes, and a dino man with a Barrett-like gun arm. Years later, it was revealed that these pieces were drawn by Carlos Huante in 2002, building off similar human-dino hybrid monsters from the Universal Halloween Horror Nights scare zone, JP Extinction, and one of the first places I'd go back to if I had a time travel machine. However, Huante said that once these ideas were submitted to producers at Amblin Entertainment, almost immediately. In its wake, Sayles' script has the hybrid idea, but done in a less obvious manner. Looking back at his script, Sayles later said, "What was interesting about writing a Jurassic Park movie was that there were a couple ideas that I had been handed because I wasn't the first writer on it. But they could probably shoot the script that I wrote today and it would be different enough from what they did make. But I think they had realized because it took years to finally make the movie, by the time they made it, people were ready to go back to the island." Keep that tension between giving people what they want and trying to move this story forward in your mind as we get back to the script. Right after this commercial break.
It's Jurassic Park. A raptor grabs a baby dinosaur. Grant tears off in the bush devil tracker to save it.
Use the snare! He's safe! Look out, Triceratops!
But the young T-Rex wants a piece of the action.
Dino damage!
Can the dinosaurs be recaptured? Look for the JP mark. It's happening, but only at Jurassic Park.
We rejoin Jurassic Park with Nick having dinner within a massive castle dining hall and meeting Baron Herman von Drax for the first time, described as a very self-satisfied character who has spent a lifetime getting whatever he wants. And we also find out that it was Drax's DNA that was used in the hybrids. But none of what the Grendel team is presenting is convincing Nick to give them the embryos. Not honor, not money, not threats, and of course not. This is so clearly a terrible idea. Later, Nick is able to stroll about the castle freely at night and talks with Maya, learning more about her. She has a doctorate in behavioral science, is a former circus lion tamer, who hasn't run away with a circus for a couple years, and had tickets to the opening day of Jurassic Park, which never came. Maya sees the dinosaurs as akin to wolf packs she's researched in the past. They pick out a single prey, and if you're not chosen, there's nothing to fear. There's a conversation of death that goes on between them, hunter and prey, almost an understanding. I've seen the rest of the herd continue to graze peacefully while one of their number is set upon and killed. 20 yards away there's this grisly murder and they keep chewing grass, because they know it's not their turn. With Joyce joining the conversation, we get more of the conflict between Maya and the rest of the team. She sees dinosaurs as wild animals that shouldn't be used as weapons, while Joyce sees them as bioengineered creatures they can do whatever they want with. And that's sort of a conversation that never fully happens in the Jurassic movies. The Park trilogy clearly sees them as completely authentic rebirths of the dinosaurs they once were, beautiful and terrifying, but worthy of life. The World films openly talk about how even the most authentic seeming dinosaurs are the products of massive genetic engineering and are all human created, with the Indominus creatures the byproduct of massive splicing unsurprisingly gone wrong. Are the dinosaurs natural animals simply in the wrong time, or are they unnatural monsters? I think the JP4 script eventually settles on them being animals deserving of fair treatment. And to convince Nick to join the team, Joyce reveals their first mission: a rescue of a kidnapped 10-year-old girl, Isabelle Chartier, daughter of a wealthy financial group chairman who is now being held in some docks. 2 co-workers of the chairman have already been kidnapped by a group called the North African Liberation Front, and both were killed despite paying their ransom, with little Isabelle given 1 week until the ransom is paid, or else. And this is what finally convinces Nick to lead the Deinonychus team on a rescue mission. And so it's time for a training montage. In the Valley Training Facility, Nick leads the Raptors, giving them names instead of numbers: Achilles, Hector, Perseus, Orestes, and Spartacus, previously called X1, and using serotonin and insulin as rewards for their training, which includes mind detection and evasion, oxytocin-induced protection of Isabelle by using her scent, and rescue mission practice, which shows how the Raptors can communicate with ultrasound vibrations undetectable by human ears.
Alan!
And the final rescue simulation is a success, with the Raptors ripping apart kidnapper mannequins and saving the one meant to be Isabelle. So with the third act starting, our mission is finally underway, with Spartacus, Perseus, and Orestes as the 3 Raptors chosen for the mission. Hector was disqualified for use of performance-enhancing drugs, and Achilles had a death in the family, covered in protective armor and a mounted camera as Nick monitors from a nearby SUV, now able to give voice commands to the Dino Squad. The Raptors are essentially operating as an elite force now, coordinating movements, climbing fire escapes, and surrounding a warehouse filled with heavily armed kidnappers and the sleeping Isabel. The attack is wild and violent, with the modified dinosaurs able to tear through metal doors and smash through walls, chomping and clawing the surprised kidnappers who start firing off Uzis. However, the rescue mission is a success, with the Raptors saving Isabel, killing every kidnapper, and Nick able to bring her out safely. The success of the mission taps into Nick's desire to be useful and save lives. And with Grendel wanting to showcase the power of their new Raptor force, plans are underway for an even bigger mission, taking out Latin American drug lord Pepe Aguilar at his fortress-like hacienda. That's right, baby, it's time for Just Cause but with dinosaurs. Christ, this is so stupid. Aguilar is a well-known kingpin, but any plans to take him out by bombing his compound are denied because he has kidnapped family members of politicians and imprisoned them on the grounds. This time, the mission includes a pair of Chlamydosaurus sputori, the underground spitting dinosaurs from back on the island that have also been modified. Named Casper and Pollux by Nick, who, like any stereotypical man, seems to have a real thing for ancient Rome. They're not as controllable as the Deinonychus, but they're on the team anyway, cooperatively working together as the Raptors know their compatriots are poisonous. However, their next training exercise is a disaster as the Raptors attack everything, killing a mercenary in the process and the chemical controls taking longer than ever to shut them down. The Raptors are angry at being controlled and want revenge. Maya reveals her theory, saying, "What Sherman did today would have killed this animal a month ago. Their brains must be developing new pathways, rearranging circuitry like people do after a stroke." We then find out that Maya is being held against her will, never leaving the castle because she knows Grendel will kill her if she walks out. But Nick eventually gives the location of the Barbasol can to Joyce in exchange for her freedom, knowing that secrecy was the biggest reason for keeping Maya locked up, and now, with the world about to see the Raptors in action, they have no reason to silence her. Nick is fairly resigned to working for Grendel, figuring he'll make a positive difference, but just as Grendel agents find the Barbasol can, Maya reveals to Nick that it was Grendel who kidnapped Isabel in the first place. But never mind that the Raptors are ready to escape at any moment, it's time for the mission. This time, the dino monitors are being watched by representatives of government around the world, ready to pay for their own Grendel squadrons if all goes right. And it's this moment where we get the most ridiculous image of the entire film: parachuting dinosaurs, as Grendel has chosen an aerial insertion, dropping the dinos onto their target from hundreds of miles above. It's the type of image that needs a hefty suspension of disbelief, but at least Nick is fully buying into this insanity, telling the Raptors over their headset, "Squad form and proceed to target. You're on your own, fellas." Guy, these are fucking dinosaurs. They have no idea what you're saying. Back at the control center, Nick finds out that the Grendel team was actually hired by rival drug runners to take out this kingpin. So really, there's absolutely no reason to root for Grendel. Taking dirty money, threatening death, working with drug runners, there's crime happening behind the scenes constantly. But our hero is a step ahead of the villains as Grendel scientists discover the canister they found contained only toad DNA. So while the Dino team does their job, with the Spitters somehow understanding how cameras work and taking them out with their super loogies, Grendel mercenaries are told to kill Nick and Maya if they try to escape. We're in the main barracks for the narco soldiers, which looks not unlike a jock dorm at a large university. Posters of Babbes on the walls, guys lounging around in their underwear, smoking, reading magazines, watching a Gamera, giant Japanese turtle that emits flames from its butt when it flies to the rescue. Come on, movie, you don't gotta tell me. Gamera rules. Movie on a big screen TV. Wham! Orestes bursts in the front entrance. Wham! Achilles bursts in the rear entrance. Bedlam as the Deinonychus charge in from opposite ends, slashing, tearing, chomping at the screaming, terror-stricken narcos. It's a thoroughly insane scene that makes Lost World's gymnastics-powered Raptor beatdown seem tame in comparison, with the guards either mauled by the dinosaurs or running away, leaving Kingpin Aguilar lounging in his jacuzzi as the prisoners are freed. And it all gets taken up another level as the Ankylosaurus we met earlier in the castle dungeon is unleashed, destroying a fleeing SUV. It's really no challenge for the dinosaurs, who essentially rip apart every guard, thrash the compound to pieces, and corner the Kingpin with only Achilles badly wounded, with Aguilar torn apart in his jacuzzi by the Spitters as bloody hot tub water splashes the walls. Afterward, the Raptors rip out each other's control implants and camera and chase Joyce, Sherman, the Baron, the rest of the Grendel team, and the narcos who hired them, who have taken Nick and Maya hostage. But the villains' escape attempt is short-lived, as the dinosaurs overtake them like a scaly tidal wave, smashing cars, biting mercenaries, and giving our heroes the chance to escape from the car they were being held in. One by one, our villains are mercilessly eliminated by Team Dino, with the Baron impaled by Spartacus' Sickleclaw. Spartacus's Sickleclaw? Spartacus's claw. Meanwhile, Nick stops Joyce from killing Maya, with the two enemies fighting as Joyce uses a halberd given to him by the Baron. And when Nick is about to be killed, Achilles arrives, sliced by the halberd but easily tearing Joyce to bits. But the wound causes Achilles to bleed out and die. Nick and Maya are briefly surrounded by the rest of the dinosaurs, but realizing they're now free, the squad runs off into the jungle. But with no insulin able to be produced by their bodies, and seemingly only fighting back through sheer willpower, Maya is unsure how long they'll survive, while Nick reveals what happened to the real embryos. My deal was with John Hammond. What he does with them, well, let's hope it turns out better than the last time. Yeah, these things are more spoiled than the 2-month-old carton of eggs I forgot in the back of my fridge. They ain't making nothing with these. And with our heroes walking off, Sayles' script wraps up two loose ends: whiny jerk Sherman and the flock of pterosaurs, as the last remaining Grendel lead is surrounded by the flying dinosaurs. The first pterosaur lets out a bone-chilling noise, tiny rows of sharp teeth revealed as it opens its beak. Sherman freezes. Listen, there's a lot of bodies just lying around down here. Dead neat, num num num. The first pterosaur spreads its wings, opens its razor-toothed beak, and steps along the branch toward Sherman. Nice birdie? Aerial shot. Jungle canopy. High above the jungle canopy, we hear a human scream and the screech of pterosaurs. Credits roll. So that's a weird script, right? There's so much time devoted in the second half of this to dinosaur training and missions and taking out drug dealers and kidnappers, but the story is also telling us that we shouldn't want this to happen. So why are we so focused on all the crazy action when we're supposed to be rooting against this? Obviously, this script was never turned into a film, but in order for this to be a compelling story, I think the balance of this really needed to change. Either give me most of this as a covert mission on the island and have all of these mutated dinosaurs on Isla Nublar, or don't go there at all and give me some sort of military action against the squad of dinos, and eventually turning them into animals that need to be saved. Not whatever this whole thing is. Well, the script, which went through several drafts that have never been available online, didn't move forward. Instead, there was a new version written around 2006 that would have had Laura Dern return as Ellie Sattler, with producer Frank Marshall apparently happy with it. Still, this went nowhere too. In 2005, Stan Winston, one of the goats of special effects and helping to bring the original film to life, gave some insight into why Sayles' script was never turned into a film, saying, Spielberg felt neither of the drafts balanced the science and adventure elements effectively. It's a tough compromise to reach, as too much science will make the movie too talky, but too much adventure will make it seem hollow. Obviously, Jurassic Park 4 would never be filmed, and for a decade and a half, the franchise would stay dormant. The revival of the franchise, Jurassic World in 2015, would obviously harken back to Spielberg's original with a story of the park finally opening and running fine until all hell breaks loose again. But there's definitely some of Sayles' script in its DNA. Specifically, the Indominus Rex is a highly engineered dinosaur, meant to bring in new guests, but it has a lot in common with JP4's Deinonychuses, with giant claws and near supernatural camouflaging making it extremely deadly. There's also a lot of dino training, with Chris Pratt's Owen Grady able to communicate with his velociraptors and even teaming up with them to fight the I-Rex. The movie also toys with the idea of turning dinosaurs into weapons, as Vincent D'Onofrio's Hoskins plans to turn the park's trained raptors into a military squad. But these are all kinda ridiculous, requiring some real suspension of disbelief. However, these are smaller elements of Jurassic World. JP4's entire script revolves around them as the central point of the story, and I think it's just way too much. Sayles' initial script really depends on hyper-vague scientific explanations of DNA splicing to make us believe that a bunch of raptors and spitters, who have only been previously shown as extremely dangerous wild animals uncontrollable by man, are now coordinating with human instructions and understanding complex sentences. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom takes Forrest's castle with an underground lab and turns it into a spooky mansion with an underground lab. And Jurassic World Dominion takes Forrest's super powerful corporation with genetically modified grain and turns it into the stupid locust plot. I wouldn't call this draft of Sayles' Jurassic Park 4 bad, just based on an idea that no one wanted and poorly balanced. We start with a cool beginning that sets up how the world is thrown into chaos with dinosaurs spreading. Forget about that entirely. Spend 15 minutes on Isla Nublar, move into a James Bond bad guy layer for a bit of tension, and then use the rest of the movie to detail covert dino operations that we're supposed to wish weren't happening. And its ending is completely open. The entire reason for the dino mission is never resolved. Hammond never returns on screen, and we get no real resolution for characters that feel like placeholders. Eventually, with Jurassic World made, Sayles' script was officially dead, with the writer saying, "I think it was just a matter of time before they realized, oh, people aren't going to feel cheated if we go back to the island. There's a whole generation of people who never went to the island with the dinosaurs, so this could be a much more familiar, traditional dinosaur movie. I think it's safer, especially if you're going to spend over $100 million, to make the more conservative choice, which is, let's just startle people." The funny thing is that while this script seemed so out of place 20 years ago, where it would have been ridiculous after something like Jurassic Park 3, it doesn't seem nearly so out of place after 3 Jurassic World movies that have pushed this story into more and more ridiculous places. Now, Jurassic World Rebirth seems to essentially replicate the essence of Jurassic Park 4's story, with the film creating the mutated, 6-armed Distortus Rex as the major threat of the movie, as a group of mercenaries are hired to go back to the island and retrieve DNA. Will we ever get human-dino hybrids with freaking guns strapped to their arms? It seemed ridiculous decades ago, but it's looking more likely than ever. Thanks for watching today's video, and we're back with another Unmade script. I really like making these videos, and I hope that you're enjoying them too. And to be honest, I got a whole stack of these things. But with Jurassic World Rebirth about to come out, I thought it was time to crack open the Unmade Jurassic Park 4 script. And really, this thing is less ridiculous than I imagined. Because for years, whenever I would hear about this thing, people would always show off the weird mutated human-dinosaur bipedal hybrid monsters. So I thought, that's gotta be the focus of this thing, right? And to be fair, Sayles' script is a lot more low-key and grounded than that. Still ridiculous, but less ridiculous than what you would have expected. Maybe that's a bit of a disappointment. I think maybe this would have been a more fun script if that was the whole hook of the film, but it makes sense why this was given several drafts as a possible movie, and not something like that. And at the time of making this video, Rebirth has not been released yet, but that Distortus Rex is looking an awful lot like that concept art. And I really think we are getting pretty close to human dino hybrids with frickin' guns strapped to their arms. Only time will tell. And of course, the box office of Rebirth. And I honestly have no clue how well that movie's gonna do. It could make $1, it could make $1 billion. That's the power of Jurassic Park. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this Jurassic Park 4 script, and if you would have liked to see this made at all. I'm guessing no. As well as anything that you hope might happen in the future of the Jurassic World movies. Although that might just be stop making them. As always, a huge thank you to my patrons and members for their continued support, and if you'd like to be a patron or member, it's only $2 a month for early access to every video and monthly exclusive reviews. So until next time, I hope that you're taking care of yourselves and having a fun Son of Summerween.